Hey, everybody, welcome to the Daily Self Publishing Podcast. I'm your host, Jeremy Sutton. I'm with Dr. Kathy Gruver. She is a stress and communication expert, an international speaker. She's a TEDx speaker, does multiple award winning author. Oh my gosh, she's a coach. She's a host of the Fire and Earth podcast. And we're going to be talking about her latest book, Say What, How to Communicate Anything to Anyone, as well as her other books. Kathy, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me, Jeremy. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm excited. I always love podcasts. This is, other than books, this is my biggest love in the things that I do outside of my home. And so I can't wait to talk to you today. And just tell us kind of a little bit about who you are, what you do, and why you do it.
Yeah, of all things, I started out as an actress. So I left home at 22 right after college, moved to Hollywood to pursue that acting dream. And I had very accidentally studied massage when I was in college. And so I had this weird parallel path of like healing and performing. And so when I got to Hollywood, I thought, oh, massage, what a perfect addition to the award-winning film roles I'm going to be having, right? In between shoots, I can massage people. And the shooting never came, but the massage stuck. So the film roles, they were elusive. And so when I moved to Santa Barbara a couple of years after that, when I realized that my audition to be a dancing piece of pizza was a failure, I realized, what the heck am I doing in this field? So was in production at that time, moved to Santa Barbara to work with a production company, which fell apart immediately. And I found myself in that like floating place. Like I was just not knowing what I wanted. I think it was the first time in my life. And so I fell back on the massage and I started my own practice, which won awards. And then I started studying more and more, and I was aching to get back on stage. I went to my first conference. This was before I had written any books, before I did anything. I went to my very first naturopath conference and I looked up at the stage and I thought, why am I not doing that? And I vowed that the following year I would speak at that conference. And I did.
Wow.
And the more speaking I did, the more people said, hey, you need to have a book. And I went, I don't really want a book. And they said, well, you kind of have to have it. And I went, okay, crap. So I started writing books, which, as you know, it's sort of addictive like tattoos. It's like once you write one, you have to keep doing it. So I just finished my eighth, and mainly, like you said, stress, communication, mindset, things like that. And I coach. I go around the world and I speak, I write, and to me, it's all the same outlet, is to help educate people and empower them to make changes. So it's
Yeah.
been a very complicated journey of me following the breadcrumbs. I don't know where I'm going next, but here we are.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, who knows? We might not ever leave our homes again. So we may all do this on Zoom. I love that. I love that you saw somebody speak and you're like, hey, I'm going to do that. I'll be here next year. I had a very similar experience. So I'm a physical therapist, and I've written 6 books. So you have me jealous. I have one more coming out this year, and then I'm going to have to write 2 more this year just so I can be caught up with you, Kathy. But I went to this PT conference and all these guys spoke, and I was like, ooh, I can do that. I have something to say. I can help people. And so now I got to speak. I spoke at that conference the following year, and which was amazing. And then I've been on several virtual conferences because that's really been the way we are this year. So it's been amazing. It's been really, it's opened several doors. It's been really cool. So I love that. I love it when somebody says, hey, I'm going to do that. And then they do it.
Yeah, that's sort of my motto, is go for it. And when I set my mind to doing something, I do it. And I mean, like I said, before we got on the air, I do trapeze for fun. And it was my goal this year to do a double, which anyone that's listening, yeah, it's a double somersault. And I was in Vegas just for a vacation last weekend. And the guy said, I want you to do a 1.5. Scared the crap out of me. And I finally went, I'm in safety lines. Like, what the heck? Why not? I did a 1.5. I caught it the same day. And
Yeah.
last night, my coach here in Santa Barbara said, I want you to do a double. And I went, okay. And I did a freaking double, so it's like,
That's amazing.
to me, it's like when you put your mind to something within reason, not everyone's going to jump on the trapeze and do a double
That's
somersault.
right.
But to me, it's like you have to have those goals. You have to visualize that. You have to want it. And then you have to go for it. You have to say yes, because you can affirm whatever you want. But if you're not working towards it, you're not going to get anywhere. So it's that affirmation plus action equals success.
Yeah, a ton of us say we're going to do something and we never take action. We're going to lose weight and then we eat a box of Oreos the next night, which I've done, and things like that.
Yeah.
So I agree. It has to be action, and it can be imperfect action. So I love that.
Yeah.
Well, one of the interesting things that you said before we jumped on was you've done several books self-published and then some traditionally published. So I'd really like to talk about what have you seen has been the big differences between the two, and why did you do traditional versus self-published and vice versa?
Yeah, what's interesting is when I published my first book, The Alternative Medicine Cabinet, I weighed the options, and this was ages ago. I think this was back in 2009. So we didn't have like the jump on Amazon and
Sure.
just self-publish. It didn't exist yet. Uh, and I was talking to a woman at a conference. She had multiple books, and some were self-published and some were traditionally published. And I said, "Oh, so you self-publish first and then traditionally publish?" And she goes, "No, completely the opposite." And she was published by like a big publisher.
Right.
And I'm thinking, why in the world would you go from a big publisher to self-publishing? And she said, they changed my cover, they changed my photo on the back, they changed the title, they changed the footnotes. It became not my book, and it took 18 months to publish. And I went, oh, hell no. I'm a control freak, triple Capricorn. I wanted the book out now, the way I wanted it out, you know? So I went with a company. Oh God, I don't remember the name of the company I went with, but you paid like $600 and they put the book together for you. And then you had to buy your copies, and
Sure.
it was a print on demand kind of thing. I honestly don't remember the name of it. They kind of went downhill as the years went on, but at the time they were great. And so I thought, well, this is what I'm going to do forever. And I found myself sitting I did a silent retreat. And one of the exercises they had us do was in 1 minute, write 10 things that you want right now. And that's pretty fast. Stream of consciousness, just go, go, go. And after sitting for 24 hours in silence, meditating with monks, I started writing. And one of the things that came out was have my books traditionally published. And I went, whoa, like I didn't even know I wanted that. So I, of course, because I said it, I got on that, started reaching out to traditional publishers, and I found one called Lotus Press. And ironically, the logo for the place where I was meditating is a lotus flower. So no accidents, right? So Lotus Press
Yeah.
took on Conquer Your Stress with Mind Body Techniques and Journey of Healing, and beautifully said that they would publish like republish my books traditionally, because I had such a good, run with the self-published.
Sure.
So to me, the big difference is control. They didn't change much because I had already published it, but they did want to change the cover, and they didn't like how I did certain chapter breaks and stuff like that. The thing I'm finding right now with traditional versus self-publishing is people assume with traditional publishing, you're going to get a big advance and they're going to sign you up with book tours and they're going to send you around the world. It's not 87 anymore, guys. It doesn't happen that way. You're still responsible for marketing your own book. You're still responsible for selling your own book. You do not get an advance anymore, usually. If you do, remember, it's an advance off future profits. They're not just handing you $5,000. You have to pay that back. So people think they're going to get rich from writing a book, and I so hope you do. Typically, it doesn't happen that way. And my ex-husband's actually an author for a living, and he has had some nightmare experiences with traditional publishers who change everything, promise things, never deliver, and then at the last minute pull the contract. So,
oh, that's exciting.
Yeah, it's been very exciting. So it's weighing your options of what do you want? You have to know what you want to do with your book, and then that's going to inform which way you go.
Yeah, I love that, guys. Listen, I mean, I think one of the key things you just said, Kathy, is you still have to market your book. And that's something that I harp on all the time with people that talk to me of like, hey, Jeremy, why should I work with you and self-publish my book? And why don't I just try to find a big publisher? And kind of what you said is, one, it's not super easy to get traditionally published if no one knows you.
Yep.
Like, if no one, like I could right now, I can't go get a traditional, I mean, I probably could, but it would be hard. Like it would take like 18 months, but I can go publish. I've published a book in one day before, just because I had 27 questions. I asked people, I answered all 27 of them, put it in a book and published it just because that's what I wanted to do. And so you can do that. So I love that. And then assume you're going to get this big advance. Like, unless you're Tony Robbins, you're probably not getting a giant advance on your book, somebody like that, a Russell Brunson, Robert Kiyosaki, things like that. So I love that you talked about those three things, and then control has been the biggest one that people say is, my book doesn't even look like what I wanted it to.
Yep.
And go ahead, Kathy.
Well, and I was going to say, and it really does, what is your objective? And I ask this with my coaching, I ask this in my own life. What do you want? if it's a vanity project, you can't take it to a traditional publisher. If you have one idea for this little thing, you can't take it to a traditional publisher. If you want to sell it back in the room and give it to your mom and dad, you can't take it to a traditional publisher. Yeah, unless you have multiple ideas. And when I was looking like way back at traditional publishing, they wanted a 40-page outline. They wanted a marketing plan. They wanted to know what your competition was and how you were going to stand out. They wanted to know 10 similar books and what those cost. Good Lord, by the time I filled out that, I could have published 5 books.
That's
So
right.
it just depends on what you want. And you have to know that, and that's going to inform everything else.
I love that. I love that. So did the traditional published books, and now you've done self-published, multiple award-winning author. Tell us about the awards. How did that come about? Has that been helpful for your career?
Yeah, I think it has. It's interesting. I'm a sponge. And so every conference I went to, every workshop I went to, I would see what the people around me were doing. And I was sitting next to a woman at a conference, and she had all of these books stacked up. And I said, "Oh, did you buy all of those?" And she goes, "No, they're mine." And I went, "Really?" And what was amazing is every person that walked by stopped and looked at her books. And by the end of the meeting, she had sold all of her own books at somebody else's conference. And I was like, that's kind of sleazy, but awesome. I love it. And she had this little sticker on her book that said award winning something, something. And I'm like, tell me about that. And you turned in your book and you paid your $60 fee. And I have 12 of those from various things. Some are self-published, some self-publishing award kind of things. Some bigger awards will not let you submit a book unless it's traditionally published. They won't even let you submit. So people got wise to that and started doing a whole bunch for self-published books. Some people say, it's a scam. Everybody gets a book. Everyone gets an award. I submitted to several. I did not get anything, So I won a couple golds. I won best in class, whatever. It's like that's a dog thing award. I won a couple silvers. Honorable mention. I don't even talk about, but it's like I get to put a sticker on my book that says award-winning author. How cool is that? To me, that's more valuable than I'm sure I'm going to offend somebody by saying this. This is my feeling. Than the bestseller on Amazon, where you put it up as an ebook for 5 cents and you had everybody buy it. You're not a best-selling author. I'm so sorry.
Yes.
That's not what that is. It drives me crazy. If you guys do that, that's great. It just drives me crazy. So I would rather show award-winning, where someone actually, looked at the book and gave it an award, as opposed to this sort of skirt the system. I'm a best-selling author kind of thing. Just my opinion.
Yeah, no, I love that, because it's very easy, if you do it the right way, to become a best-selling author on Amazon. I actually teach people how to do this. It's super easy. Like, I've had multiple bestsellers on Amazon. I'm not a bestseller. There's a book. There's a guy who I know who's written several books, and all of his books say best-selling author. And I'm like, no, you're not a best-selling author. You hit number one for 5 seconds one day. And that's, now the caveat is, and I talk about this too, if you want to call yourself a best-selling author because you hit number one, that's your business. Go ahead and do that. Because there's other books that didn't hit it or whatever. But I agree with you. You don't have a number one best-selling book. So I really love the thought process of getting these awards, because, like you said, someone actually looked at your book and said, okay, we had, whether we had 3 books or 300 books submitted, this one was the best out of those. Okay. You didn't say you won the world's award.
Right. Well, and I did think about that at first. It's like, oh my God, I won gold. And then I thought, I wonder how many people submitted books. What if I was the only one? Is that fair? Because I'm very literal. So if you say best-selling author, let me see you in the New York Times. Or, that kind of thing. So for a while, I did have this almost imposter syndrome of, it's a gold winner, but how many? But you're right, whether it was 5 or 25 or 105. And a couple of the ones, because I knew people who worked at the company, told me, oh no, we looked at 50 or 60 books and yours was by far the best. Okay. Whew, validation, my childhood fears can be allayed. But everyone's going to have their own path with that. And I think the public at large is catching on to this best-selling author thing. So I don't think it's carrying the weight that you think it is.
No, I absolutely don't. I think the author still carries weight, regardless of how it is, because, somebody said something one time about, well, do you have a crappy book? I'm like, I don't know. Well, my crappy book's better than the book you don't have. But I don't, I don't want to put out bad books at all, and we shouldn't.
Sure.
But there's like 80% of the world's population want to be, or the United States wants to be an author, and 1% of that 80 actually goes through with it. So it's still a big deal. But like I said, it's not that hard to become a bestseller on Amazon for a few minutes. So I love that. Well, so I know you speak at a ton of conferences. You've been all over the world. So you've been on Dr. Phil and things like that. Now, was that all before your books or after, during? How did the books play a role in that?
Yeah, but both. I started speaking kind of right before I did my first book. I think it might have been concurrent. Having one book, people are like, "Oh my God, you have one book." As soon as I had two books, oh my God, because
Yeah,
again, it's anybody can jump on one of those platforms and publish a book. The fact that I had two, and then I had five, and now I have eight, that becomes impressive to people, which I kind of have to go, but I don't know any more or less than I did before I had those books. But it looks
sure.
good. It becomes a marketing tool. And when I published my first book, I was so proud of it. Of course, your first book, oh my God, I did it. You're holding it in your hand and you're like, oh, this is the best thing ever. And being that you had to pay for author copies,
Yeah,
it was an investment, to do.
right.
And I worked with this publicist. He was a PR guy. And I don't know, the man is a wizard. He sent out all these queries and I got like 50 requests to review the book, to come on radio shows, to write an article, to da 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 da. And so I'm talking to this guy. And I'm like, oh my God, I don't know what you did. And he wasn't expensive. And I'm like, I don't know what you did, but this is amazing. And he goes, okay, well, when you send out the books, go ahead and include this thing. And I went, I'm sorry, what now? And he goes, oh, well, when you mail out the books to these people, make sure you include the press release. And I went, I have to give them a book now? And he goes, yeah, because they're going to review it and they want you on you have to send them a book. And I went, I can't send them because I'm seeing money chick, 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 chick,
Yeah,
going out the door. And he kind of sits back and he goes, let me guess, this is your first book. And I went, yeah. And he goes, after you've got 4 or 5, you'll use this as a business card. You will have no
yeah,
problem giving away. And it's true. It's become
absolutely.
it's become a giveaway, or it augments my speaking of, hey, I'll come do it for this amount. Oh, and I'll throw in 10 books as giveaways. Oh, everybody
Sure.
loves that.
Yeah,
So it has definitely helped my career because people take me more seriously, especially as a speaker.
yeah,
Because now I show up in back of the room, I sell my books, and that, quite honestly, also is where I make the most of my sales. I
yeah.
have literally walked out of a conference with $1,000 in book sales.
Love it. I absolutely love that. I love what you said because it becomes your business card, and I think it can even become a business itself. Your book, and so you can branch off so many things. But really, I've talked to so many people, getting ready to launch this podcast, and everybody's like, the places that I've spoke at, they're like, "Do you have a book?" And they say, "I know, a friend of mine wanted to speak at the same conference, and they said yes to me and no to them because they didn't have a book." So
Mm,
it's kind of, and I know that's not in every instance, but I know it's
sure.
becoming a thing like, hey, we're going to have these 10 speakers, here are their books,
Yeah.
and then like you said, you're not going to get rich selling books unless you're, Tony Robbins, some of these guys. Oh, his name always pops to mind. I always say, every single podcast, I think I've said Tony Robbins' name. Tony Robbins is not paying me, but
I say he's selling more books because of you.
exactly. But like that's it. You grow your business based on these books. You're not making money on a book, a $2 book it costs you $2 to print or whatever. So I love that you brought that up.
Yeah. Well, except that who's gonna balk at $1,000 in sales walking away from a conference, or even
Exactly.
500, because I also typically get paid to be at the conference.
Sure.
And it's to a point where if somebody wants me to speak for free, unless it's a location that I really want to go to,
Yeah.
or it's a cause that I really, really believe in, I'm gonna say no. And I had one that not only wanted me to speak for free, wanted me to cover all my own travel, and said I couldn't even mention that I had a book. And I went, no, I'm out. Like, why would I? What is the benefit to me to do that for
Absolutely.
you? At the very least, let me sell my books and maybe make enough money to cover my trip. Nope, that's not our policy. And I went, well, then I'm so sorry. I have to say no, but thank you.
Sure. Yes. Thanks for offering, but no.
I'm flattered, and no.
Yeah, absolutely. So I know you've been on several TV shows. You've been on Dr. Phil. So how did that work out? Was that from your publicist, reaching out, or how did you manage that?
No, Dr. Phil was so weird. It was just so surreal because for the longest time I was doing a lot of TV. I had a publicist, I was submitting, I was pushing to do TV. And it was it would have been my boyfriend and I's anniversary. So last September, and we're about to go down to the beach. It's still quarantine, right? So we're not really working. So it's like, oh, let's spend the day at the beach. And as we're walking out the door, I said, let me just look at these emails. And one said, media query, Dr. Phil. And I went, hang on, hang on, pause the beach. Over the next couple of days, we went back and forth, and they said, yes, they wanted me to come on as an expert guest. There was I'm going to say guy. I almost said gentleman, definitely not a gentleman. There was a guy down in the South who was assaulting women on the massage table. And because I have a background in massage and I've done expert witness work for massage cases, they had me in to talk about ethics, boundaries, that sort of thing. And they ended up picking me, which was a roller coaster of a couple of days. So they found me online because my website's good. They saw that I was a speaker. They saw that I had media experience. They saw that I'm good in front of a camera. And they said, yep, we need you to come down and do this. So it was a huge honor. It was so exciting. Everybody was incredible. So yeah, it just came organically. They found me online.
That's amazing.
That's the best compliment ever.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. I love that but if you hadn't been doing all these things, preparing, speaking, writing, it wouldn't even have been an option. They would have never even known who you were.
Yeah. And when they pitched me to the other producers, they wanted to know that media background, over 250 talks, TEDx, books. That just ups my credibility when you're going to be an expert guest. Because if someone's watching the show and goes, what the heck does she know? And goes to my website, they go, oh, we see what she knows. Okay, never mind.
Yeah. Sure.
So
absolutely.
It all helps. It all absolutely helps.
Absolutely love that. TEDx is on my goal for early next year as well. So I love that you've done that, and that's really cool. Let's talk about, I think you've given some amazing advice and tips already, Kathy, but if somebody's listening, I really like to focus on healthcare providers and business owners, helping them, but frameworks are frameworks, whether you're plumber, electrician, doctor, whatever, writing books. What would you tell, give 3 to 5 tips on somebody that wants to write? What would you tell them?
Oh my God, just write. You actually have to write something at some point. And whether you have a yellow pad and a pen, or whether you have your computer, or I dictate all of my books. I'm a pretty fast typist, but my brain goes faster than my fingers. And so I dictate into my phone, either using something like Temi, which is a transcription software, or I tend to do it in the car. So I'll click the notes thing and I will just dictate, which has had its drawbacks, going through like a dead zone. And I have this brilliant paragraph and then I hear ding and I look and it's all gone. And I'm like, what did I say? Yeah. I figured that's the universe's way of saying, say it again. But you have to at some point write. And for people that say, oh my God, how'd you write a whole book? I didn't write a whole book. I wrote word by word, which became a sentence, which became a paragraph, which became a chapter. How do you eat an elephant, right? One spoonful at a time. You have to not pace yourself, but you have to break it down into doable steps and do what works for you. I'm a visual kinesthetic. So when I was trying to organize Journey of Healing and the Alternative Medicine Cabinet, because those are sort of like little chapters that are standalone things, I wrote each chapter on a note card. Remember those like actual cardboard things, note card. And then I color coded it. Was it mind body? Was it physical? Was it a story? Because in Journey of Healing, I tell a lot of personal stories that have a lesson in it. And I laid it out on the floor and I stood above it and I arranged it so that I could see how it flowed. Then I went in and cut and paste and did it in the computer. Do whatever works for you. You have to do something at some point. And again, know what you want. Know who your audience is going to be. If you are writing this for other physicians, you better put in some studies. If you're writing it for your mom and her bridge club friends, you don't need to put in studies. And then figure out, put yourself on a time frame. Like, I want to do this by the end of da 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 da. Make it reasonable. Not next Tuesday I'm going to have my whole novel done. And please, oh God, this is the most important thing. Please have an editor, not Uncle Joe. Unless Uncle Joe's a professional editor. I have read so many self-published books that are amazing, and every time they write there, it's the wrong there.
Yes.
Have someone edit your book. You cannot see these things. And it's funny, like I said, my ex-husband, he does a bunch of travel books. He wrote a travel book on Santa Barbara. And I said, hey, do you need me to look at it before you send it to the publisher? They had an editor, but you do kind of want to send it in as, And he goes, no, I got it. And I went, are you sure you don't want me to read it and just see that you caught everything? He goes, no, I did it. And so I open it up and it says, it's great to be down at the beach with all the roller bladders. And I went, roller bladders. And he goes, that's a new thing. And he he missed it.
Exactly.
And of course, spell check didn't get it because bladder is a
Bladder,
word.
yeah.
So yeah, so roller bladders. So he let me read it after that. Like a couple
Good.
things. But
Good
just
for you.
have someone look at it. Know what you want. Have a good cover. I don't know. There's so many things.
No, I love that because I love the timeline and the editor thing because I've added in a proofreader to my team, and I think it's going to pay for itself a million times over. But
Yes.
we talked about someone I interviewed last week who's this very successful person said we misspelled my name on the cover. It's like, I mean, you're gonna like. So one of the books I helped someone with one time was How to Be a Mobile Entrepreneur. And I sent him the cover and he said, you misspelled entrepreneur. And I was like, oh my gosh. Like sometimes you just do stupid things. You hit a keystroke that didn't mean to. And so you absolutely, it can't be Uncle Joe unless Uncle Joe is an editor. That might be the title of this podcast.
Right. Well, there you go. Well, and also because I dictate, oh dear, the things that Siri thinks I said.
Yeah, absolutely.
I teach a meditation where you do inhale, I am, exhale, at peace. And I was dictating that in the car. Now, I say this, I've taught this meditation to millions of people, so I know what it's supposed to say. And I got home and I uploaded it and I was reading it and it said, on the inhale, say, I am. On the, and exhale, ass piece. And I went, oh, that's... Inhale, ass piece. That can't be right. I know what I was trying to say. So now every once in a while, as I'm teaching the meditation, I think ass piece instead of ass piece. So just especially if you're dictating, make sure you've got it right.
Yeah, there you go. That's very, very good because Siri doesn't always know, and and so I have to be careful because I'm Southern and have this thick accent, and so I used to use Otter, now I use Descript a lot, and I'm like, okay, it's starting. I don't know if it's learning me or if it has if they have a redneck dictation version, but it's starting to work better. So I don't know.
Okay, good. Well, good.
Yeah, I love that. I love it. That's amazing. Oh, Kathy, this has been wonderful. You shared a lot of great stuff. If someone wants to reach out to you, how can they find you online?
Yeah, so the best thing is kathygruver.com or kathygruver.coach. And I actually do help people. It's not my main focus, but I've had clients that want to write books, so I kind of walk them through the process. And you can get all my books and find out about my speaking, kathygruver.com, kathygruver.coach if you want to do some coaching. And then I'm all over the internet, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. I got trapeze videos everywhere, silly stuff. So
yeah, I watched about 10 of those this morning. That's pretty impressive.
Did you really?
Thanks. Awesome. Kathy, thank you so much for coming on. It's been amazing.
Oh, I appreciate you having me. Thanks so much.